You wake up. For a second, you're still there. A hallway that doesn't exist. A conversation with someone who died years ago. A feeling so vivid it presses against your chest. Then you reach for your phone, and it's gone. Not faded. Gone. Like it never happened at all. You have this experience almost every single day of your life, and you've probably never asked why. Here's the strange part. Your brain didn't forget your dream by accident. It erased it on purpose. There's a mechanism for this. A real, measurable, biological process working against you the moment you open your eyes. And once you understand it, you'll never look at your mornings the same way again. Start with what a dream actually is. Not poetically, biologically. Every night your brain cycles through stages of sleep, light sleep, deep sleep, and then REM sleep, the stage where your eyes dart rapidly beneath closed lids and your brain becomes almost as active as it is when you're awake. This is where most vivid dreaming happens. Your body is essentially paralyzed during this stage, but your mind is wide awake, building entire worlds. Why would evolution do this? Why would it design a brain that spends hours each night constructing elaborate, immersive, often bizarre simulations, only to delete them minutes after you wake? For a long time, scientists didn't have a good answer. In the 1970s, psychiatrist J. Allen Hobson proposed something called activation synthesis theory. His idea was simple. During REM sleep, your brainstem fires off random electrical signals. Your cortex, the part of your brain responsible for thought and meaning, tries to make sense of that static. It stitches together a story from noise. A dream, in this view, isn't a message. It's your brain doing its best to narrate chaos. That theory explains why dreams happen. It doesn't fully explain why they vanish. For that, you need to look at what's happening in your brain in the seconds right after you wake up. In 2017, sleep researcher Francesca Ciclari and her team used high-density EEG to pinpoint something remarkable. They found a specific region toward the back of the brain, which they nicknamed the posterior hot zone, that lights up during dreaming, whether you're in REM sleep or not. This region tracks conscious experience during sleep with startling precision. Turn it off, and dreaming stops. Keep it active, and dreaming continues, even outside REM. But here's the piece that matters most for forgetting. Dreaming lives almost entirely in that back region. Memory formation, the process of taking an experience and locking it into long-term storage, depends heavily on a different structure, the hippocampus. And during REM sleep, communication between these two systems is unusually weak. Think about what that means. Your brain is having a rich, detailed experience, and at the exact same time, the machinery responsible for saving that experience is partially offline. You're not forgetting your dreams the way you'd forget a phone number. You're failing to fully record them in the first place. It's less like erasing a video. It's more like filming with a camera that was never quite plugged in. There's a second piece to this puzzle, and it comes from memory researcher Robert Stickgold, whose work at Harvard has spent decades examining what sleep actually does for the brain. Stickgold's research points to something counterintuitive. Sleep isn't just about rest. It's about editing. Your brain uses sleep to sort through the day's experiences, strengthening some memories and weakening others, deciding what's worth keeping and what isn't. Dreams may simply not make the cut. They're often generated from unstable, loosely connected neural activity. They're frequently bizarre, non-linear, emotionally intense, but logically incoherent. Your memory system, built to prioritize information that's useful for survival and daily function, may treat dream content as low-value noise, not worth the metabolic cost of permanent storage. So your brain isn't malfunctioning when you forget a dream. It's doing exactly what it's designed to do: prioritizing. Now here's where it gets stranger. The moment you wake up matters enormously. Studies on dream recall consistently show that if you're woken up during or immediately after REM sleep, you're far more likely to remember what you were dreaming. Wait even a few minutes, drift into light sleep, get distracted by an alarm or a thought about your day, and the dream dissolves fast. Some estimates suggest you forget the majority of a dream's content within just 10 minutes of waking. 10 minutes! That's the entire window. After that, it's mostly gone and no amount of trying will bring it back in full. This is why people who keep dream journals train themselves to write immediately, eyes barely open, before rolling over or checking the time. They're racing a biological clock that closes faster than almost any other kind of memory loss you'll experience. But why do some dreams break through anyway? Why do certain ones stay with you for years? The answer seems to be intensity and disruption. Nightmares, emotionally charged dreams, or dreams that wake you up directly tend to be remembered far more often than calm, uneventful ones. If a dream is frightening enough to physically jolt you awake, your brain is suddenly flooded with alertness chemicals right at the moment the dream was happening. That surge appears to help lock at least fragments of it into memory before the window closes. It's not that the dream itself was more real, it's that your waking process happened to align with it in a way that let a trace survive. There's an evolutionary angle here too, one that connects dreaming to something much older than modern sleep science. Some researchers have proposed that dreaming, especially anxious or threat-based dreaming, may have functioned as a kind of rehearsal system for your ancestors. A low-stakes simulation of danger. Being chased, falling, confrontation, practicing a fear response without the real-world consequences of actually facing a predator. If that's even partly true, it would explain why fear-based dreams tend to be more memorable than mundane ones. Emotionally significant simulations may have been worth remembering, at least a little. Everything else was disposable. So every night, your brain runs two systems that don't quite talk to each other. One builds a world. The other decides, almost immediately, whether that world is worth keeping. Most of the time, the answer is no. And so, by the time you're brushing your teeth, staring into a mirror at a face that just spent the last hour negotiating with a dead relative or flying over a city that doesn't exist, none of it remains. Not because it wasn't real to you in the moment, but because your own mind quietly decided it didn't need to be real to you tomorrow. That's the part worth sitting with. You are, every single night, the author, audience, and editor of an entire private universe. And almost none of it survives past breakfast. You wake up. For a second, you're still there. And then, just as fast, you're not. Not because the dream failed, but because your brain, quietly and efficiently, decided you didn't need to remember it at all.